Hello and welcome to episode 3 of You're Not Listening. Today I want to take you back to an incident that happened when I was 16 years old. I was by this time playing the keyboard and I had a very good opportunity to play every week in church with the choir. That sort of gave me the confidence in my musical abilities. And I thought that, I was getting better as a musician. But there was one thing that was lacking in my musical repertoire, in my set of skills, and that was singing. I wasn't really known for, being the best singer in my choir. And quite often, the people around me, they would pass these snide comments. They would say, stick to playing the keyboard. Singing is not your cup of tea. Or let me handle this. You just focus on the playing. I didn't let that get to me because I was young and I thought that maybe they don't understand my style or they don't know how good I could be. Whatever the reasons were, maybe I wasn't really ready to face reality. Now, every year we had a talent competition. Singing was one of those disciplines in that competition, and I really wanted to take part and get on stage. I was already playing in church for a year by then, and I thought I had the skills and maybe even the confidence to go up on stage and do this. So I worked at a song, I registered myself, I went up on stage and I performed the best I could, and I lost. And the losing did not bother me. It was the reaction of my peers who won. That's what bothered me. How they easily dismissed me and how they thought that, I wasn't even a contender. And maybe that was wrong on my part, that I shouldn't have been offended. I wasn't really good. But something about that situation got me. That whole week I sulked. This competition must have happened on a Sunday and I was, sulking the whole week. It just bothered me. Why wasn't I so good? Why didn't I work harder? A lot of these thoughts were in my mind. Why couldn't I be better? Can I ever be as good as them? And I decided I'm going to work hard at it. No matter what happens, I'm going to do something and I'm going to show them that I can do it. So I went to my mentor. He's the guy who taught me how to play in church, gave me a lot of life advice. I looked up to him as somebody I could listen to and follow for advice. And maybe he saw something in me because when I approached him, he knew I was upset about something. And I told him with a very serious face, with a lot of conviction, I want to work on my singing. And I told him what happened, the whole incident. And I said, I'm not happy about this. I'll do whatever it takes. But please train me. So he decided to, give me a couple of lessons. He did warn me in the beginning, it's not going to be easy. There's going to be a lot of hard work. You have to do a lot of things to get better. But for me, there was just one goal. I was committed. Now, if you're going to get better at singing, you need to find a place, an avenue to go and perform. And for me, that was in church because I was a church-going boy. And I realized that morning masses were absolutely free. So the choir members would usually come in the evening. Mornings were too early for some, or some people went to work. But no one had the dedication to get up in the morning and come and sing in church. So I said to myself, for the next 1 year, I'm going to turn up in church for all the masses that no one else will come for. And that's where I'm going to work on my craft. I don't want to be laughed at because in the evenings, if I went to sing, I wouldn't get that opportunity. The mic would not be given to me. So if I came for these masses that no one wanted, I could work in silence. I could work without anyone else, bothering me. And it would give me enough time to work on my craft. So every morning for the next 365 days, I woke up, I went to church, I practiced the vocal exercises my mentor gave me, and I tried to get better little by little. Now, progress is not linear, especially when you look at music. And singing is even harder because it's a very internal process. It's not something that you can control with your limbs like when you're playing the guitar. So there were days when I had absolutely horrendous performances where my singing was bad, or I would forget the chords I was playing, or I would sing horribly off key, or forget the words, or mess up something in a song. There were days when I was practicing my vocal exercises and I was frustrated. I really wished that time would fly by, that, I would reach the end of this 1 year. Because I had made this vow to myself. I had made this promise that I'm not going to give up. It sounds like, a hero story that it was so easy. Every day I would turn up and get better, but it wasn't. It was 1 year of pure hell, 1 year of working hard. There were times after the first few months, you lose the enthusiasm. You go back to your baseline behavior. Okay, I can maybe take a day off. I won't turn up now. I could try tomorrow. Then I would remember what my goal was and what I went through and what I felt, and I would get up and turn up in church. There were times when I would go for my evening masses and the same thing would happen. Somebody would laugh at me, and then I would remind myself, tomorrow morning when you feel like you're not ready for it, you will get up and you will go to church. This fueled me for the entire year. Now, in this duration, my mentor would turn up sometimes and he would give me feedback. He would tell me what I'm doing well or not. But I realized that I had to go through this journey alone. While he could help me, there was only so much he could do. He wouldn't come every day and hold my hand and teach me and coach me. That wasn't the dynamic that we had. Whenever he had the time, he would turn up and help me. So it was up to me to push myself, to motivate myself, to drag myself across the finish line. So 1 year passed by. This talent competition came back again. I went back to my mentor. I said, please help me choose a song. And so he gave me sort of semi-classical song to sing. It wasn't, the latest song that the audience knew, or they wouldn't clap to it and sing along with me because no one had heard this one. But I decided to put my head down and work hard at it. I had 2 months. Every morning, every evening, whenever I had free time, I just let this one thing push me, that I'm going to go on stage and I'm going to kill it. Now, during this process, it got a little competitive. Those same peers of mine, they noticed that I was practicing for it. And so the snide remarks continued. They would tell me, oh, you're working on it, that's very nice, but who knows who will win. I didn't let it get to me. For me, it was just about getting on stage and proving to people that I had some amount of talent. I remember the day of that show. I was maybe 5th or 6th in the line, get up on stage and perform. And when I saw the others getting up on stage, how nervous they were. These were my peers who had won the previous year, but as they were going up on stage, they were messing up in small passages here and there while they were singing. Some of them were nervous before they went on stage. And I felt a strange sense of calm. I remember turning to one of my friends who was there with me and I said, I don't think they're going to win this time. It's so easy to beat them. It's time to get that killer instinct out. And for the first time, I understood what people mean when they say killer instinct, especially, in athletes or in performance. It's that feeling of absolute zen that overcomes you when you know that you can go and give your best. And just before I went on stage, I just felt calm. It was like nothing could shake me. That confidence was really strong. I went on stage. As usual, you will have some butterflies. I don't remember how my performance went. I just remember that whatever I had practiced for 2 months, whatever practice I had put in for the 365 days leading to that day, I just had to replicate all that experience into this one performance on stage. I finished my performance. I didn't know what happened. It was just like a moment that was lost in time. I got off stage. I had to ask others, how was it? I don't know whether I did well or not. And everyone was happy for me. Now it's time for them to announce the winners. Now, I had taken part in 3 categories: solo singing, duet, and instrumental. To my surprise, actually I thought maybe I'll win in 1 category, maybe 2. I won in all 3. For the first time, I saw those same peers look at me with shock and with respect. Now the aftermath of this, when I went to church, instead of taking the mic away from me, they would set the mic for me so that I could sing. They would give me willingly an opportunity to sing. And that experience taught me the importance of drive. It's been so many years since then. I'm almost 40 now. And I think back to that period of time. If I could summon that amount of drive again in my life, even for 1 year, if I could sustain that drive, that fire, I could really move mountains. Today, I'm going to share with you a really powerful framework that will help you replicate that same drive. And while I've developed this framework, I'm going to try this myself and see if I can sustain that same amount of hunger over the course of 1 year. I call it the drive code, and it's got 5 stages. First one is the wound, the second one, the wow, third one is the work, followed by the reignition, and then the proof. I'm going to walk you through every stage, and you'll see how you can apply it in your own life. The first stage is the wound. In my case, I was hurt that I was dismissed and not taken seriously. It could be similar in your case too. Someone writing you off, or you being ridiculed by your people around you, colleagues, friends, partner, doesn't matter who it is. They don't just seem to take you seriously. Now that's my entry point for the drive code, but there are other reasons that you may want to be driven, or you may want to set a tough goal and then work on it over the next 1 year. I'll give you 3 other scenarios where that might happen. So the wound is one, of course. Then you've got the vision. Now the vision is where you find yourself in a situation where you've got to set yourself a goal and then work towards it. Maybe your health is something you didn't care about, and maybe you're pre-diabetic and you've got a wake-up call now. And so you say to yourself, enough, no more. I'm just going to draw a line over here, and I will work hard for the next 1 year. I'm going to lose that weight and I'm going to come back stronger. So that's where you get the vision. You set yourself a really strong goal and then you work towards it. There's another scenario where you can get an entryway into the drive code, and that is the standard. You've hit rock bottom maybe, and you crossed a certain line, and now you've decided that you'll never again do that. Something similar happened in the case of a friend of mine. He was battling addiction for a really long time, and the moment that changed his life was this one day when he reached into his pocket and he didn't have enough money to buy food for his kids. That's the day he realized he was, spending everything on his addiction. That day he drew a line in the sand and he said, I'm never going to be in this position again. So he set himself a target, and then he worked towards not just beating his addiction, but never being in that position again where he had to choose between providing for his children or feeding his addiction. The final entryway is the responsibility. This is where you are taking care of a family member or a partner, or you're the sole breadwinner in your family, and you realize that you're not doing an adequate job for them. If you watch the movie The Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith, it's sort of that. He hits rock bottom here, and he doesn't have a wound. Maybe it's a combination of all these entry points, but he realizes that he's got to provide for his son, and it's not okay that he's dragging his son everywhere with him in the pursuit of making more money. And that's when he realizes he has to do better. He has to push himself and get them out of poverty. So these are the 4 entryways that trigger your start to drive. The 4 of them are the wound, where you get dismissed and you're hurt; the vision, where you decide to set yourself a goal so that you can save yourself; the standard, that's where you hit rock bottom and you decide, I'm never going to be in this position again; and then finally you have the responsibility, where you feel so ashamed or you're so down that you haven't been able to be a responsible adult taking care of someone else, that you decide never again is this going to happen. Now it's important that you find the entry point, the wound, because you can't just choose generic ideas to fuel your drive. You can't just say, I want to be successful, or I want to be happy, or I want to make money. If you don't have the why, the main primary motivation, you're not going to get to the next stage. And that's why someone said, nobody builds anything extraordinary from comfort. They build it from the moment someone told them they couldn't. The second stage is called the wow. This is where you're going to make a commitment right before all those excuses come along. Now, when we want to drive ourselves forward, when we set an ambitious target, what we do is we wait for motivation to strike in order to begin. And what's going to happen is that motivation will die out as time goes by. So if you don't have your wow, your promise to yourself, you're never going to get past the first few weeks or months. I told myself for the next 1 year, I'm going to get up and go to the church and I'm going to sing. And I had my why. I remembered that feeling of being unhappy when I did not win, that feeling of being hurt when my peers dismissed me. That is what I reminded myself every time I felt my motivation was dying out. Because we think that 1 year is a short period of time, but when you look at it on a day by day, week by week basis, it's really long. To get up every single morning for a year, absolutely impossible. And when you make that promise to yourself that this is my goal, I'm going to complete it within X amount of time, you also have to be clear about why you're doing it, because that is what is going to fuel your motivation when it is low. If you only rely on motivation, what happens is you lose sight of the goal, and over time you let laziness creep in, you let the excuses come by. And if you only work at a goal but you don't know why you're doing it, after some time you'll think that it's pointless. So you have to be very clear when making this promise, this vow to yourself. Why am I doing this, and what am I going to get out of it at the end of this hard time, at the end of this struggle? And this will take you to the next stage, stage 3, which is called the work. This is the unglamorous part of the whole process. This is the part where you rinse and repeat, where you may feel sometimes that it's futile, I'm tired, I want to give up, I don't think the end is in sight. It doesn't matter. You just have to remind yourself, rinse and repeat. In my case, in this 1 year period, I failed so much. I messed up so many times. Sometimes a mentor came along and said things that could have demotivated me. But I just had to say, no problem. I'm going to come back tomorrow and I'm going to do exactly what I was supposed to do today. I'll do it a little better. I'll work on it. For example, let's say you're going to the gym and you set yourself a target of 1 year where you're going to maybe lose 10 kgs. And you have your why as well. And the reason for that is maybe because you want to be fit for your family, for your kids. And so you make a plan and you say, I'm going to work out 3 times a week. On paper, it sounds fantastic. I'm going to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's really easy. I can take Saturday, Sundays off and enjoy myself. The first week rolls around, you've hit all your targets. Second week rolls around, fantastic. Now, it's not really glamorous after the third or fourth week, after a month, after 2 months, after 3 months. It's just the same thing over and over again. And you've got to do it for 10 months more, a total of 52 weeks. And then you realize how drab it is, how boring it is. You thought that maybe after 1 month of working out, you'll see some changes, and they haven't come along yet. This is where you've got to make sure that you rinse and repeat. You're not going to give up. You're not going to think about the goal. That's going to happen at the end of the process, not right now. Right now, you just need to do the hard work. Don't think about what changes have to come along. They'll come in due time. And what that will do for you is it is going to build a habit, a repetitive, disciplined habit that you can carry along even after you've met your goal. So at the end of 1 year, maybe you've reached your goal, you can continue this same unglamorous process of rinse and repeat to achieve something else in your health journey. So make sure that when you reach stage 3, you're not going to get bogged down by all the details. You're just going to put in the hard work, keep your head down and keep plowing along. Next, you're going to reach stage 4, which is the reignition. And this stage usually comes along in the middle of your journey towards excellence, around maybe the 6 to 8 month mark. So to give you perspective, if you zoom out, at the start of your journey, you've set your target, you made your vow and your promise, and you're not going to break it. Somewhere, when your motivation dies down, you remind yourself of the why. Every day, you're rinsing and repeating, and you're doing those tiny steps. As you are going along, you're going to start losing sight because everything is boring. That excitement, that reminding yourself that I'm doing this for a bigger goal, for the greater good of myself, all of that is slowly going to start fading away. This is a very crucial part of that journey of drive. This is where you've got to reignite that spark. This is where you've got to go back and revisit why you're doing it. It's a bit separate from stage 3, which is all about doing the work. Some of this will already happen earlier, and maybe you've gotten over that difficulty of motivating yourself and going ahead. But as the goal gets closer, your mind is going to get fogged up. It's going to make more excuses for yourself. It's going to give you reasons to give up. Maybe you'll think to yourself, and I'm going to go back to that same gym example, you've done so well over 6 months. Maybe today you can take a day off. Or you've really hit all your goals consistently over the last 12 to 15 or 16 weeks. Maybe you can binge a bit. Or maybe you can let go if your scale shows you're a kilogram higher. It's absolutely fine. This is a crucial stage where a lot of people fail. The moment you let go of it, of that goal, and you don't reignite that same passion, you don't remind yourself that this is why I'm supposed to do it, and this is my goal, and this is the promise I made to myself, you're going to slowly start sliding back to stage 1, going back to the starting line. The best way to beat this kind of droll is going back to your goals and reading them. So I would highly recommend that you write down everything in stages. This is my stage 1, this is my wound, or this is my entry point into why I'm doing it, my goal, and you read it and remind yourself 6 months down the line, this is where I started at. Maybe for you in the gym, it would be you look at your stats. What were your bench press numbers when you started in the beginning? What were your deadlift numbers when you started? Now 6 months later, look where I am. It doesn't mean I've made enough progress to stop or slack off. It means I have to push myself harder, I have to be more vigilant and drive myself forward. So make sure when you reach the midpoint of your journey, the intensity comes back. It shouldn't lessen or die down. And then this will finally take you to the last stage, the end of your journey, which is called the proof. This is when repetition has built the results that you can see. Maybe the others haven't seen it yet, but you're right now in a really good space. You don't have to motivate yourself too often. It's become second nature to you. If you go back to the gym analogy, this is where you've built a habit of going to the gym regularly. You're not going to break that habit. Your diet is on point. You feel great about yourself. And if I go back to my own story, I had done so much of singing in those 10 months that the last 2 months really didn't bother me as much. The song was difficult, it was challenging, it was outside my comfort zone, but I was comfortable with failing and I knew what I had to do to bounce back. So during rehearsals, if I had a bad day, that was okay because I knew what that felt like and I knew what I had to do the next day to get back on track. This is something that is very powerful. The winning of that competition wasn't really important. I didn't have to go out and announce it. By the time the competition rolled around, people had started to take notice. How dependable I was, that I was there for all the masses where others did not make the effort to come, or how my singing had slightly improved, or I was sounding more confident on the mic. All these things led to that moment of me winning. And the same thing will happen to you as well. You won't have to go out and tell people that you're working out or you're changing something about yourself or that you've put in a lot of effort to be a different person, a better person. They're going to start noticing the proof in the work that you deliver, in the person that you've become thanks to the struggle and the hard times you've gone through. And I think it's really aptly summed in this one statement, that confidence isn't something you find, It's something you build in the dark and only discover when the lights come on. And that sort of sums up the entire journey of the drive code. So you've got the 5 steps, and I'm just going to repeat it one last time for you. If you need to write it down or make notes, then go for it. The first one is the wound, and you've got multiple entry points over here. Then you've got the vow, the promise that you make to yourself, the work, which is the rinse and repeat parts, the reignition, somewhere in the middle where you are most likely to give up. You've got to remotivate yourself and find that passion again. And then finally, you have the proof where people notice that there is a difference. You will not have to say anything, just your work is going to speak volumes for yourself. Sometimes when I think about that 1 year period and how it ended, I wish I could replicate that periodically. I could, go back to that mentality. And that's the reason why I thought I should come up with a framework, a formula that everyone can use. It's something that I'm going to use for myself as well. I won't talk about it now because I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch. At the end of this 1 year period, I'm going to come back to this episode and then maybe we can discuss about how this framework worked for me. For you, the best place to start, and that's your task for this week, is write it down. Start with this question. What is my entry point, and is my reason personal enough to survive a bad day? If it's a wound, then stop protecting yourself from it. Use it. If it's a vision, then get uncomfortably specific. Get a version of it that stretches you, not the one that feels safe. If it's a standard, write down the person you refuse to become and put it somewhere you'll see it, your vision board, or maybe it's a mantra that you can chant over and over. If it's a responsibility, then name it, say it out loud, share it with your loved ones so that they can hold you accountable. And then this week, find your version of that morning mass that I went through. Something unglamorous, the rinse and repeat structure. Because that's where drive lives. Not in the highlight, but in the habit. If this framework landed for you, and if you recognize your entry point, or if you're still trying to find it, I want to hear from you. What's your entry point into drive? The wound, the vision, the standard, the responsibility, which one is yours? Send me an email. I read everything. The email ID is yournotlisteningshow@gmail.com. I'm going to say that again. YOURE, not listening show, no apostrophes, no space, @gmail.com. And if you know of someone who keeps saying that they'll start, whether it's next month, next year, when the time is right, send them this episode. It might just help them. Because the time will never be right. And that wound will always be waiting for you. The weights in the gym, that morning mass, that thing you're always putting off will always be available. They just need someone to say, your reason is enough, now go find the empty room. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time.